Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Fat Doctor podcast. I promised you a guest. I'm so excited. I have one. I'm presenting you with almost like an offering, Cara. I'm sorry, but that's what it
It's
is.
fine.
I'm presenting you with an offering of a guest today. I'm very excited to be having this conversation. I have no idea what episode this is. Doesn't matter. It's an episode. Here we are. And I'd like to introduce you to Cara Winsor Hehir, who will always be, in my mind, fat girl on a bike, because that's how we met on Instagram. I would say now some years ago, but you'll have to remind
Hmm.
me.
Good
Um,
three.
three. Is it three?
Yes.
That sounds
Yeah.
about right to me as well. Good. Okay. I thought I might be imagining it. And you recently sent me a message about an experience you had with your doctor. And I was like,
Mhm.
we need to talk about this in more
Yeah.
detail. I'm so excited to hear about it. But before we talk about this incident with your doctor, I would like to get to know you a little bit. So rather than, I wrote down, tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey to, weight neutrality or fat acceptance or fat
Yeah.
justice, however you identify. Tell me about yourself.
All right. So I'm 47 and I live in Newfoundland and Labrador, which is the most easterly province of Canada, which is unceded territory. So big old colonialism happening over here. Newfoundland's real name is Ukdahumguk,
Oh,
and I try to refer to Canada as Turtle Island because
yes.
it's what the whole landmass is called. Um, so I'm an activist, I guess, a decolonializer, I suppose. I'm a comedian and a visual artist and craftsperson, and I'm Fat Girl on a Bike. I am I've ridden over 1,200 kilometers this summer on my bike, and I'm uh so yeah, I'm very into being fat. I like my fat body a lot. I like it more than I ever liked it. I was, of course, in my life, I have been smaller, but um, I'm really strong and I like the way I look. I don't know if it's like body positivity. It's
Yeah.
neutrality. Yes,
Yeah.
and like I like myself, so I don't really and I didn't always, but
Mm.
I think discovering you and being able to take that part where it's like, well, it's my health. So I have to think about my health.
Mm.
Taking that part out of my thinking changed it all for me. And I would imagine I'm probably healthier than I've been in a long time because I've stopped worrying about my health.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing. And I mean, like I'm already massively in love with you. Just like that introduction. Who wouldn't be?
well,
Sorry,
thank
but
you.
you're just fabulous. And can I just
Oh,
ask, the art
yes.
behind you, is that you?
Yes, that's a
Did you do
hooked
that?
rug I did.
Did you do
Yeah.
We don't appreciate textiles as much as we should when it comes to art, do we?
I agree. Sorry for the cough.
Mm,
Um, I agree. I think it's textiles and well, craft is a really important step in art. Like it's
yeah.
part of it. So when people say craft isn't art, I get up in arms.
Mm, I'm
Mm.
with you 100%, and it's beautiful. I can't
Rawr.
stop looking at it. I can't stop looking at it. And your glasses. I like the two.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
and they sort of like one brings out the other. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, you need to be watching this on YouTube because it's visually very pleasing to the eye. Um,
Oh, lovely.
so I love what you said about like you like yourself, you do
Hmm.
like the way you look, like you're
Hmm.
into yourself, and I can tell that you are. You're not just saying that, you clearly are into yourself as well. You
I,
should
yeah.
justifiably so. But there was that piece about health and wanting to be healthy, and that's changed maybe more recently for you. I'd love to know more about like what that was like for you.
Um, well, it was like uh, a light going off in my head because it was just something I'd never considered before. It was like, no, I'm fat, so I have to be unhealthy. But
Mm.
this part where I've biked over 1,200 kilometers this summer, like, you have to be relatively healthy to do something like that, you know? Um, it's so I had to stop thinking about it in terms of health. And once I took that out, I guess I um started seeing what my body does. Um and I guess in some ways I've been a life model for art classes for probably 20 plus years. And I I'm nude, I'm naked on a pedestal in front of people when I'm doing that, right? So I guess I've always been fine with showing off my body, but I still had this shame about it. And up until, so it would have been late 2021, I was looking into getting weight loss surgery, taking Wegovy, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yes. And was really invested in losing weight. And I'm sure everyone who's larger has been in that place where it's like, it's the beginning. I haven't lost any weight yet. This is going to be a huge journey that is going to end once I've lost 30-ish pounds. And then I'm going to want to eat again. And I'm going to end up where I am now, but I'm probably going to even have more weight on. And it's just, I'm going to keep doing this cycle for the rest of my life. And I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you know the Desiree Birch's profiles in fatness?
I have not ever heard of this. No, tell me.
So Desiree Birch, she's a comedian. She lives in the UK, and she's a Black woman, and she did a series called Profiles in Fatness, and she just talked to fat people about how they felt, essentially, and it got me on. I fell down a well, and found you in the well, and I just knew it was just like, this is what I've been looking for, is the voice that says you don't have to lose weight. You can just stop thinking about weight loss. You can stop worrying about food. Also, I like the imbalance of like food shaming people,
Mm.
because as a family, we've been poor. We're not so poor now, but we've been quite poor as a family. So the idea of like, well, you have to eat good food, that's classism,
Oh, it really is. Oh,
which, riles me up as well.
yeah.
And so I just, all these things started falling in place.
Mm.
And it was a big sign that said, don't worry about your size, do the things you want to do.
That's amazing.
And I've had to, we have to teach ourselves the language of something like this when you're starting over and figuring out how to, also live in a world where there's a lot of other people who are still going, I've got to lose weight. I've got to lose weight. And
Yeah.
be like, not yell at them for it, but hope that they, subtly be like, you don't necessarily have to lose weight. Um, because everybody is going to be on their own journey with that. But I, yeah, I think that was the big thing for me to that point. And like finding you and you giving this honest information that you're not really hearing anywhere else. Um, because you're not saying everything's perfect. you're saying this is not necessarily a factor in your overall health.
Mm,
And it was just taking that scope and going, okay, apply it to my life. And I have been now for, you know, 3-ish years.
that's amazing. That's so wonderful
Mm-hmm.
to hear. And I think so much of what you said has resonated because I too, like, 2020 believed that losing weight was the way to get healthy. That's changed a lot for me as well. And every time I take a deep dive into, like, the most recent thing I've done is I've looked at the both the American and the European guidelines for hypertension, for high blood pressure. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
now I like zero in on the weight loss bit straight away. Yeah, I read them through and then I'm like, right, let's go straight into the weight loss. And these are big guidelines, right? We're talking hundreds of
Yes.
pages. And so I get in there, I get right in there, and I find the references and I go to the paper and I read the actual paper that these guidelines are basing all of their advice on. And then I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what a crock of shit. This is not
Yes.
evidence. This is bullshit. And so then
Yep.
I'm like, okay, every single time I do this, I am reinforcing my own belief. Actually,
Yes. Yes.
there is nothing, there is no evidence. Like, high blood pressure, everybody gets told lose weight for your blood pressure. Nope,
Yep. Yep.
wrong. There's no
My
evidence
blood
for it.
pressure is fine. It's
Yeah,
and it's always the only issue is that the doctor needs to get a bigger cuff for my arm. And it's like,
that's right. But
but they
then there are,
keep those in another room.
yes, oh, don't, yes, the blood pressure cuff thing, that's definitely come up more than once. But actually, your blood pressure is fine, and that's really great. But also, if your blood pressure wasn't fine, it would also be okay
It would
because it's
also
nothing to
be,
do with your weight, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It,
And it's like, but it's one of these things where it's a assumption,
mm,
when you go to the doctor. Or, I mean, uh, my mom's 87.
wow.
I love her, but she is the reason for
Mhm.
all of the trauma with the, and she's at 87, she's still worried about her weight.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I forgot where I was going with that. You turn to your mother and it's like, oh, but
Well, I think pretty much all the listeners to this podcast will also be able to say, I love my mother, but also the reason that I have all of these
yeah,
issues.
yeah.
Like,
And
almost always, and probably her mother and her mother and
oh,
her, and we goes back.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And and
But
really, colonialism is the root of the problem. It's not, it's our parents perpetuating white supremacy because they don't know any better. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, it was a bunch of people a while ago that decided, yeah, no, we don't like fat people because they kind of, remind us of black people, and we don't like black people. So uh we'll put the two together, and
it,
yeah, and so on and so forth.
it's true. It's so true.
Um,
It's painful.
I'm curious about biking. Okay, so I didn't write down how many kilometers. You'd said I'd bike this many kilometers, and my brain has already forgotten the number. But I remember thinking, that's a lot of fucking kilometers. First of
Yeah.
all, where did you do it? Like, was it just in Newfoundland, or did you go to other parts of Turtle Island as well?
No, I went to, it was just in Newfoundland. It's in the city. So what I do is I get on my bike, I ride up a giant hill that's like 200 meters above sea level.
Mhm.
And I go and I to a pond that's in the woods and I swim. And our summers are really short here, so I do it almost every day. And that has accumulated like 1,200 kilometers.
1,200. Okay, I first of
Ooh.
all, my perineum is sore just thinking about, like, I'm not a fan of the bike for that reason. Okay, like, I that hurts me to think about. I love the wild swim. That sounds delicious.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
biking up a hill, good for you. Like, I can respect you and also say that's not for me. And I'm
Yeah,
wondering,
absolutely.
you don't strike me as somebody who performs the role of the good fatty. You don't strike me as someone who goes, "Oh, look at me! I cycled 1,200 kilometers this year. I'm morally superior to everybody else." You
Yeah.
don't strike me as that person.
No.
So why'd you do it? I genuinely want to know. Not that's curiosity, not judgment in my tone.
Right. Well, it started because we don't have a car.
Oh.
So I had to get around somewhere somehow.
Mm.
And my dad died 2020 and I got a little bit of money and I'm like, I'm getting a really good bike. So it's got an assist on it. So it does help me get around harder places because I've got terrible knees. And we live in a hilly city.
Mm.
But it's just, I was always a bike rider. I got out of it. The bigger I got, it was like, well, that's not for me anymore. That's not a thing I get to do anymore. And but I loved bike riding. I was worried about my ass on the seat mostly, how big it was going to look to people coming up behind me, all that stuff, like so superficial. And so I've got really strong legs. There's fat, and I might have like lipedema. I'm not sure. You can't tell they're muscly, but they're strong. And that
Yeah.
just makes me feel like, I could kick over a banker. Like it makes me feel really good about myself. And it's not about how they look, it's about how they feel. And
I
I don't
love
know.
that. I love that story. I love that that story was born out of a situation where you didn't have a car and
Yeah.
therefore needed a means of transport. So cycling
Hmm.
wasn't like I'm doing this for my health. It's like I'm doing this to get out of the house. So I've got no other way to do it.
Yeah.
I love that you have made some accommodations for yourself so that there is like the like you if you need assistance, it's there. That makes
It's
me
there.
intensely happy.
Yeah.
I love that it's become part of your routine. I love that you don't care. I mean, I'm worried about your ass on the seat as well, but for different reasons. Like I'm worried about like is it like when you play the guitar for a while and you develop calluses? Does your ass
Oh,
adapt? Is that what happens?
oh, I've my hemorrhoids can be
Oh,
really bad sometimes.
this is where my brain went. My brain went, oh my gosh, my hemorrhoids. Like
Oh
I've
yeah,
had three
yeah,
babies.
no,
Like that's not for me.
yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. It's my second child just blew my arse out, and that. So now I get on a bike seat, and I wrote a song while biking this summer called "The Lone Grape in the Valley."
Oh my god, that's epic. Oh, just the imagery, if in of itself, the imagery is perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so my bum suffers a bit. My perineum's been fine.
Okay. Well,
I sit up more.
I am. Do you know what? I'm relieved to know that it's painful, but you're managing. It's not like it's not. There's no major damage done. I
No.
love what you said about your legs being strong. I think this is so important to put out there. Fat people have stronger legs. We're carrying more weight. We have more muscle in our legs. It's
Oh
why
yeah.
people do so well when they like join a CrossFit gym and stuff. Like we have a lot of muscle. Just because it's not
Hmm.
defined doesn't mean it's not there. It might be hidden under a layer of fat, but that doesn't make a difference. It's still
Yeah.
there, and it's that muscle that actually is, doing wonders for us. And it's
Hmm.
why we do better as we get older. We can get up out of chairs easier because we have more muscle in our legs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you said, people piss us off, we can kick them. And
Oh,
that's also good.
I so one of my favorite things about being on my bike in because I ride in traffic. So I'll stop at a red light and I can do this thing where I balance really delicately on my tiptoes while
Hmm.
still sort of seated on my bike, and I can keep myself up and my balance is great, and I know my calf muscles look huge. And I just love it, if a driver says something to me, to be like, do you want me to kick you with one of these?
Yeah. These these are
Yeah,
deadly. It's like a
yeah,
giant turkey leg like that. You don't want to
yeah,
mess with this.
yeah,
Good
look
stuff.
at me.
Yeah, love it. Oh gosh, like
Yeah.
I'm just visualizing you and a very beautiful part of the world because I've watched many a video and looked at many a picture and have fantasized about visiting because it's not a terribly long journey from Scotland, especially. It's not a terribly
No.
long sort of flight. So you do live in a really lovely part of the world. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, I have visions of you on your bike. It's great. I'm loving it. I would love to talk about this appointment. I don't know if you remember the story you told me. Do you remember the story you told me, or should I read it?
Yes.
No, you
Yeah.
remember it.
You want me to tell it?
Yeah, I want you
Okay.
to tell the story because it's a really good story. I was so happy about this
All
story. Go.
right. I'll be paraphrasing now, I think.
It doesn't matter.
Um,
Paraphrase away.
so I went to my doctor about my knees, and I've had x-rays done, but they can't really see. They're like, oh, moderate arthritis, but they're really bad. So I went back to her, and she did a bit of a test on me, and well, she, got me to raise my legs and stand different ways and bend my knees. And at one point, one of my knees did a snap thing that echoed in the office. So she said, let's get you an MRI. And so she was filling out the form for it. And she said, they're going to want to know your weight for the MRI. And she said, so what do you want to put in? Like, we'll just tell them whatever you want the answer to be. That's what I'll put down. And I said, I don't know, I guess around 300
Hmm.
pounds. And she said, all right, perfect. She typed it in, on to the next thing. Like, she heard me. She had listened when I had said to her, I don't want to talk about my weight ever again. She went, okay. And she stopped um, talking about sleep apnea to me. She stopped talking about, um, when I get blood work, she'll test my glucose.
Mm.
But, my father was type 2 diabetic. So there's a good chance that it could happen. Hasn't yet. But she stopped sort of saying, well, these are the things we're going to do to check on your health. She now focuses on the thing like the snappy knee.
Mm. Wow. I'm writing notes just in case you didn't realize that. I'm writing notes.
Okay.
I'm fascinated by all of this. If people are like, why is Asha being really rude and looking down? So I'm literally writing things down. So I wrote down, first of all, big news. Your GP examined you.
Yeah.
You went in with knee pain and your doctor examined your knees. Now you might think, obviously, not so much. Many people I've talked to with painful knees, I'm like, and what did they find on examination? And they go, huh? What? I have never ever had a patient come to see me with a physical complaint that I could examine and not examine
Yeah.
them. I mean, even if I couldn't do it in the moment, I'm like brought them back in to examine them. It's
Yes.
so bizarre to me that a doctor will be like, you go to see a doctor and say my knee hurts, and then the doctor doesn't examine the knee. How do you know what's going on? Like, this is
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then she, right? You said she. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then she ordered an MRI. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
again, she ordered an investigation. She didn't just go lose some weight. She went, I don't know what's happening here. I'm gonna stick you under an MRI scanner.
Yeah. Yeah. And it hasn't always been that way.
Right.
Um,
Oh,
she's been my doctor for about 20 years.
that's
And we've, I was one of her first patients.
right.
And there have been some struggles with her over the years. Um, but I don't know, I feel like she sees me as, now she sees me as an equal and sort of another person of the same age with the same life experiences to a degree. Yeah, I think our relation, that same doctor's appointment, she confirmed for me that because I told her I couldn't tell if I had pubes anymore, and she confirmed for me that I do still have some pubes.
Hilarious. They don't last forever. Just putting that out there. They won't last
Yeah,
forever. They'll go eventually.
Oh yeah, no, they're
I mean,
going.
get a
They're
little bit of,
migrating south.
yeah, that's what they do. They just head downwards, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I'm totally coming back to this. Like, I want to know the
Yep.
evolution of your daughter. But before we get there, like, so she examined you, she did an MRI. Then she asked you what you wanted. I have to put a weight down here. What do you want? Oh my God. I mean, I'm like, I highlighted that, put like an exclamation mark. And then when you said your weight, she did not go on to talk about your weight in any way. And obviously you've got a boundary here that she clearly knows she's not allowed to cross.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were sort of saying that in general, she stopped stereotyping so much. So, like, she's not just going on about sleep apnea and diabetes, two conditions
Mm-hmm.
which are A, very common, and B, you may well develop, like, or if you haven't already, like you said, type 2 diabetes, it runs in the family. So maybe it
Mm-hmm.
will happen. Hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
but it might. But she doesn't just assume, fat person, that person is therefore going to have all of these conditions. So
Yeah.
um kudos to your doctor. But as you say, wasn't always like that. And I would love to know a little bit about what your experience has been with that same doctor previously, what it was like. And then, and I think this is the key for my audience, what the hell did you do to get her to treat you this way? Because you did something. I refuse to believe that she changed. So
No.
go on, Cara. Tell us the secret, please. We've been building
Okay.
up to this.
So, like, there was, I've had in my life, I've had issues with addiction.
Right.
And, oh, sorry, my husband's saying goodbye. Goodbye, dear. Have a good day. um, so yes, I've had issues with addiction in my life. I'm pretty open about it.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew, and there was judgments, parenting judgments based on that, body health judgments based on that. Um, and it made me feel like I couldn't trust her
Right.
at all. Now it's impossible to get a doctor
Yes.
here, so I stayed with her
Yeah.
and just was for years felt like I couldn't tell her things. And I think I don't know if it was when I said to her, I'm not going to discuss my weight anymore. I'm done talking about that. That's not a thing that's ever we are going to discuss again. Let's just deal with the other things that are going on in my life. And she just was like, okay, all right. And the thing is now, though, is that she's very much like, okay, but we're going to work on these things. Because, of course, I'll have anxiety about going to hospitals and getting tests and put them off and put them off. She will call me now and be like, let's get this done. Let's get your blood work done. Let's get these tests done. Like she's on it more than she ever was.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she was like, okay, we're not going to talk about your weight. We're going to talk about your health, but we're going to deal with issues that you've got and you can't put them off. Like, so I don't know if she was calling me on it or if she sensed that I had turned a corner in how I felt about myself. I'm not sure. We're about the same age, so maybe she's going through changes herself and
Yeah.
learning herself, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why it changed. If it was just my authority of saying, I'm not talking about this anymore. She's a little tiny woman and I'm a great big one. So I don't know if it's that.
I love it. Physical. I'm just going to use my stature right now to impose upon my daughter. Love it.
Yeah, I don't mind being considered a menace.
Me neither. I think I've got to that stage. I can't remember what film it is. Is it? I think it's Goodfellas. I can't remember, but it's definitely one that involves kind of the Italian mob. And is it better to be feared or to be loved, or is it the Soprano? I can't remember. It's something.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
is it better to be feared or to be loved? And I've got to the stage where it's like blatantly better to be feared. Blatantly better
Oh,
to be feared.
I mean, I enjoy it so much. I chase down cab drivers on my bike.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we hit a certain stage in life where we have far fewer fucks to give, and then we're just
Mhm.
like, yeah, fear me. I don't need you to like me. I could be
Yeah,
your worst enemy, but you can fear me and therefore respect me out of fear. Uh,
yeah,
Thank you for being so open about your issues with addiction. I appreciate that, and I
oh
also
yeah.
I think that because these things often intersect. Um, our judgments about people's bodies and our judgment about people's quote unquote lifestyle. And often that's diet
Hmm.
and exercise, but actually extends beyond that. And so,
Hmm.
there is definitely stereotypes that involve sort of income and socioeconomic class, and obviously race and gender identity and sexuality. But then it goes beyond that. So, like to mental health, everyone I know who has a mental health diagnosis says to me they will always blame my mental health. Like, if I have bipolar, that's it. Anything I say or do will be linked to my bipolar. And
Right.
I also think that's the same when you have a history of addiction, is that,
Hmm.
you are seen as an addict first. Like that,
Hmm.
as far as I'm concerned, you have a history of addiction. That's you, that's your identity. And then
Yeah.
in addition to that, you are a fat person with a history of addiction, and that's very different. And the amount of times doctors are totally and utterly sort of non-judgmental when it comes to a upper middle class thin sort of functioning alcoholic, for want of a better word, than they
Yep.
are about like a person who perhaps is in a larger body and is working class, and
Hmm.
is perhaps, even if it's the same substance, even if it's alcohol, it's very
Yeah.
different attitude, I think. And you mentioned the judgments about parenting and the judgments about body health and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I'm really glad you brought that up because I think it's so important. And then you said about not feeling like you could tell her anything, and I think it sounds like she's got to that stage where she recognizes that, but it doesn't sound like she's taking any responsibility for that. And
Oh,
that,
oh, no, I don't imagine she is.
yeah. And I'm not going to judge individual doctors because there's no help. It's not particularly helpful. But when people are like, "Oh, I'm afraid to go and see my doctor, or I'm avoiding my doctor, or I'm avoiding getting blood tests, or I have anxiety about going to the hospital and getting tests done," I'm always like, is it anxiety or is it just like a normal reaction to being treated like garbage?
I think that that's what it is. And it's a
Yeah,
system that is, I know you have the NHS, we have free healthcare here,
yeah,
but like I'm all for free healthcare, don't get me wrong. But it's not well funded at all. And, even the facilities are institutions,
yeah,
so you go into this space that's falling apart, the infrastructure is falling apart, the this just depressing space where if you've been sick in the past, that's where you've been sick in that building, and I have been.
yeah,
That I watched my father deteriorate after his stroke, all this, and
yeah,
now I have to go there and get an MRI on my knees. Like, I've been traumatized by this space.
yeah,
And so it's not as simple as just going in and getting my knees done. I need, you know, my spouse usually is what I need, is someone to take me there and do the things for me.
yeah.
Luckily, he will do those things.
Mm,
So it's, but also he has to work. He can't always take time off work to hold my hand in a hospital.
yeah.
But I agree. I think it's that we've been really, um, the health care systems have failed us in such a way that we don't trust it. We don't feel safe in those spaces at all
No, because we aren't safe in those
because we
spaces, to
aren't
be fair.
safe. No, you're
Yeah.
right. We
It's not
aren't.
that we
Yeah.
don't, I mean, we don't feel safe because we aren't safe, and we don't
Yeah.
trust them because they're not trustworthy. And uh,
Trustworthy.
right? Yeah, like they're not honest, and they don't treat us with respect, and they deny us our basic human rights sometimes. And
Hmm.
you said trauma, and it's so true. It's trauma. Being in a
Yeah.
hospital is traumatic. And it's funny because I grew up in hospitals in the sense, like not as a child, but I got my first job as a sort of nursing assistant. I actually started working in hospice care to begin with. And then, since I was in my early 20s, I've been in and out of hospitals. They don't freak me out because I know exactly what's going on around me. But when I start taking my children into hospitals, that's when I realized, oh, these are scary spaces anyway. Just it doesn't matter
Hmm.
who you are. This is a scary space. This is where sick people are. And you have all these
Yeah.
people walking around, and you can tell a lot of them are sick, and that's not cool. Nobody wants to be around sickness.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like you say, you have these traumatic events, like the deterioration of a relative or whatever, or your own sickness, your own convalescence. But
Hmm.
then if you're fat, you have the added trauma of all the weight stigma and all the eyes looking at you and being judged
Hmm.
and being told this and that. And like, for some people going in to get, I don't want to freak you out about getting that MRI, but
No,
uh I
it's
do
okay.
know that for a lot of people, they show up for their MRI of their knee and then the brace doesn't fit across and then they're sent home because I think that happens to like 1 in 10 people or something like that.
Right.
So that's so traumatic.
Yes.
And then if you want to avoid that situation, you have to do all this extra work. And then your doctor's like, go and get a blood test. Like it's that easy. If it were that easy,
Hmm.
I'd have done it.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
it's easy. I'd just go do it. And I
Yeah.
get that it's hard for all of us, especially in Canada. I'm well aware because I work with a lot of clients in Canada. I'm well aware of how well your health service is holding up. You also
Hmm.
work with a lot of people in the States who have very different health service, uh, and different in many ways. It's not better, it's not worse. And some of the
Yeah.
things I think like, oh, but at least in the States you get seen quickly. Not so much. It's really not the
No.
case. But then
No.
also, I'm like you, I believe in free healthcare, but it's very difficult to do free healthcare or free healthcare at the point of contact in end stage capitalism. Those two things just
Hmm.
don't
Oh,
work.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do it.
Agreed.
And I have clients in Europe, I have clients in Sweden and France and places where you think, oh yeah, the healthcare is going to be really good there. Not so much. Turns out healthcare is crap everywhere. And I'm sorry, but that is a failing of the healthcare profession. Like that's our fault, our being like me as a member of the healthcare profession. We fail you. Um, so I think it's wonderful that you have found a way to embody authority, power, equality with your doctor. I think that's incredible, but I also want to honor the fact that must have taken a lot of hard work. It would not have been easy and it would have come with sacrifices.
Um, Being funny helps with a lot of that. Um, and uh, being on stage, being a performer helps in situations where I have to go into a room and I have to behave a certain way that draws the attention to me. That so I think that that's part. It's probably confidence
Mm,
actually, and like just building your confidence in yourself will has helped me a lot with that because I realize where I say she views me as an equal. I've realized I no longer look at her as being above me, as
oh,
being more important than me because she's a doctor. Like
yeah.
I've been just because she went to school and got a degree that I couldn't do because I had no privilege at all.
Mhm.
Well, I did, but I when
Not the
that's
level of
terrible
privilege that she had. Let's
that
put it
she
that way.
has.
As
Yeah,
somebody who went to medical school, I'm well aware of the level of privilege it takes to get in there. I mean, there are some people who are very massively underprivileged and still manage to get in.
still do it. Yeah,
They're incredible,
yeah.
but they are the exception to the
Both
rule.
her parents were doctors,
There you go.
so I didn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
Like we were work working class, poor,
Mhm.
laboring family. Like it's a different world.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, but that doesn't it? It doesn't matter. It
No,
doesn't matter. Like
no.
I think, is she a good person? I don't know her personally, but that's what's more important to me.
Yeah.
Like, not even she's nice. Is she good? Does she try her best to learn from her patients? These are the things that matter.
Yeah.
And that's where I place her value, I guess, and my own. And so I can see us as being where we're equals. We're the same kind of, we live in a place that is pretty repressive politically,
Mhm.
and we're trying to raise a family and get meals on the table. Like we're this there's not that much difference between us except for the importance placed on her work,
Yeah.
but I think my work is as important as hers. It's
It
Yeah,
is. Oh, I'm
yeah.
so glad you said that. And can I just say, as a GP, I 100% agree with you. There is no,
Hmm.
and yeah, I went to medical school and it was hard to get into medical school, but you know what? I got into
Hmm.
medical school because I was extremely privileged. And also, to be honest, part of it was like it was a bit of a fluke. I don't know that there was anything special about me that got me in there, but certainly since then, what I've realized is yes, we play an important role in the sense that like health is important. People when people are sick, they need a doctor, and uh, people will often say like it's an essential service, but I don't, I again don't see the value in, I don't think that necessarily makes us more valuable. Yes, we work in
Hmm.
an essential service. I mean, so do the armed forces, so do first responders, like essential, we can't live
Hmm.
without them. So do refuse collectors. The
Hmm.
moment they go on strike, our life ends, and so do
Yeah.
so do builders, and so do, I mean, there's so, like, I could go on and on. But also there are people who work in like the non-essential services, as they labeled them in the COVID pandemic,
Hmm.
equally as important. The artists, the
Yep.
people who are bringing us joy, the people who are making us laugh or making something beautiful for us to look at. Actually, when we were locked in and we were sort of stuck, it's the thing we craved the most. We
Yep.
needed our doctors, but we also needed the relief and the fun and the joy and the community and all of that stuff. And I
Hmm.
think like COVID was a great equalizer for me. It made me realize like we are all very much on the same equal footing. Nobody is more valuable than the other. And although I think I knew that logically before, I felt it. I began
Yeah.
to really notice that actually, if we're just living like this, lockdown, and only essential services are functioning, but I don't know that I want to live like this forever. I'd rather
Oh,
not,
no,
thanks. Right?
no, you couldn't.
So
No.
we are so very equal. One is not better than the other. And I think you are so right. It doesn't matter whether she thinks you of you as an equal. You think of her as an equal, and that's what made all the difference, I think. That
Yeah,
changed the
probably.
yeah,
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 that I stopped feeling I had to look up to her in some way.
yeah,
She's getting paid to help me live a better life if that's what I choose, like to help me not have bad knees. Like,
yeah,
but what she thinks of me morally, she can leave it outside the office. Like, it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
affect, and it doesn't affect me. Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
how I feel and how I feel about the people that I love and the people who love me. Like, those are the things that shape you and make you and keep you strong. And
Yeah.
yeah.
How wonderful. What a wonderful conversation. This has just brought so much joy. This has brought me so much joy just listening to somebody who totally gets it and who is clearly incredible, and everything you do. I mean, everything you said today has been amazing. I love that you like started out like getting a bike because you didn't have a car, and making and turning that into something wonderful. And I love that you're stuck with that GP, and like you can see that GP or no GP, and so it's better to have a GP. So instead of just like putting up with it, you're like, you know, I'm gonna make this into something. And I love that you have.
Mhm.
I love that you have found that sort of place where your GP honors, for the most part, your needs. I'm sure there are
Yeah.
things that she could be doing, and certainly being a bit more understanding about medical avoidance and why you're
Hmm.
avoiding the medical profession. But
Hmm.
all in all, I feel like you're having a better experience than most people, and I'm sure a lot of people have a lot to learn from listening to this.
Yeah, I have to like. It. well, none of that would have happened if you didn't give me permission to go to my doctor and say, I don't want to talk about weight.
Mm,
So that when I say that you saved me, that's the thing. Like I would have had by now I would have had surgery. I would have
mm,
been on different medications, like, and like maybe physically I'd still be alive, but I'd be that much more traumatized
yeah.
than I was prior to it, you know? So I'm free of it. I'm free of having to worry about being thin and about being what some like I've thrown the beauty standards out the fucking window. I'm not having it. Sorry, swearing. Um, I'm
I
not.
mean,
I,
that's not a problem.
you know, I'm not like I I almost hope people look at me and go, "Oh, she's so ugly." Like I'm at the pond having my swim, and people show up, young men, you know, lads show up,
Mm.
and um, I will take my boobs out, and my boobs are long, you
Kind of,
know,
yeah. I know the
in
ones that go
the long, yep,
point down.
they've gotten pulled by little mouths, like,
Yeah.
and I, you know, or happily shake like my arm so that my bat wings are like just giving her, just like flapping all over the place. I go ahead, think I'm ugly. Go ahead, gives me more power. Just gives me more power.
Oh, yeah. Oh, once you no longer give a crap about the male gaze, it transforms your life, and I love that. And now I have this beautiful image of like the bike's to one side, you've just gotten out of the water, you're shaking yourself off, drying yourself off, and these men don't know what, men don't know what's hitting. I love it. Like, just yeah, be
Mm-hmm.
afraid, friend. Like I
Yeah,
said,
be
fear me.
afraid. Yeah, yeah.
Um, you said about me giving you permission. It makes me so sad that anybody needs permission from me.
Mm,
I don't I don't feel like anyone should need permission from anyone. But I also understand why, because
yeah.
I get this way a lot of times about a lot of stuff. I'm seeking permission because that's what I've been conditioned to do. And I think especially if you're a woman, if you were conditioned as a woman, as you're growing up, uh you've been taught to seek permission, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
so of course we need to seek permission from a doctor to say fuck you to my actual doctor. And so if that's what you're seeking, friend, right now, if you just need permission, then permission granted. This doctor, Britain's most outrageous doctor, grants you permission straight away.
I
You go,
give them permission too.
and you've listened to Cara, right? Like, you've listened to her story. She has granted you permission. The end.
Mm,
um, Actually, again, Cara, do you know what? I've just said she. Are those the correct pronouns?
yes.
Are you she, are you they, or are you both?
No, she is good.
She is good.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that terrible
She
that
is
I
good.
got to the end of this? Like, I'm sure I checked on Instagram before, but then I was like,
Hmm.
oh my God, I didn't actually ask before we started. Just goes to show folks that I am, doing wonders when it comes to gender identity.
Oh,
Anyway,
I'm terrible at it. I
oh
don't
yeah,
know what I am yet. So when I figure it out, I'll
okay.
let you
Let me know
know.
if it changes. Um, you have been an absolute legend. Thank you so much for joining us. I know this
Yeah,
one's going to be a popular one. I really do. I know people. I'm
I,
going to get a lot of positive feedback.
I
Um,
love you.
I
I
love.
need you to know I love you.
I
I
need you
like
to know I
told
love you
me,
too.
yeah,
It's
good.
mutual. Feelings
I know.
mutual.
Yeah.
Um, where, like, if people want to get to know you, I will obviously link all of this, folks. Obviously, I will link all of this to the studio notes. But if they're just listening in right now and they're like, oh, I need to befriend Cara, which is what I recommend you do, befriend. How would they do that?
Okay. I'm at Fat Girl on a Bike on Instagram, and I think I'm pretty easy to find there. Uh, I have a link tree that's Cara Winsor Hehir. I am the co-producer and co-host of a monthly comedy show called New Funny that uh, just celebrated 3 years. We've never had a straight, white, able-bodied man on our shows
Oh,
because, yeah, we are very queer. And like, as you may know, comedy is very white male
mm,
oriented, very straight. So yeah, we are the only place in the city that offers a show that doesn't contain rape jokes or anything about sexual assault from a predator's point of view. So check out New Funny. That's a very important thing for me. And where else can you find me? I've got a YouTube channel and I make doll houses on it sometimes.
oh my gosh. Of course you do. Of course you do.
Yeah.
You know when you just meet someone, you're like, of course, that's something that you also do in your spare time because clearly you're not busy enough to be doing all the other
No.
stuff. And I will definitely be checking out the comedy club. And it makes me very sad that that's the way you have to advertise yourself. Hey, no rape joke free.
I
Wow.
know, but you
Okay.
have to. You
Yes.
actually have to.
Unfortunately, I found myself at a comedy venue the other day, like listening to comedy, and it was a comedy of black origin. So I had higher hopes, if I'm honest. But
Mm.
what I hadn't realized was the same old horrible heteronormative, sexist, misogynist nonsense was going to appear in the show, and it was very disappointing. But then I went and saw Hannah Gadsby
Oh, I
at
want
the
to
Fringe
see.
in Edinburgh.
Yes.
It
Mm.
was a very different experience. That was wonderful. So
I
yeah,
bet.
comedy's
Yeah.
amazing. I love comedy so much, so and I love that you do that. So I'm going to be sharing all of those things in the show notes. And also, I feel embarrassed that I don't know who Desiree Birch is, but I am definitely going to be looking them up now and
Oh
doing
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
I'll
you're
put them
gonna
in the
love
show notes.
Desiree Birch. Oh,
Amazing.
oh,
And originally American but living in the UK, is that right?
yeah, yeah. Like she's a big deal. She's been on Taskmaster.
I'm just not very cool like that, and I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
All
I
right.
like. I watch a lot of British television.
So I don't watch any British television, and I think
Mm.
that's where it's gone wrong. Like I've
Yeah.
literally anything I watch is the Great British Bake Off. I do not watch British TV. It's mainly because my husband does not like watching British TV. So
Mm.
then I kind of end up not watching it either. But there you go.
Yeah.
Way what a way to end a
No.
ramble at the
Let's
end
go
of
watch
a
some
podcast
TV.
episode. That's that's what tends to happen, right? I fizzle out at the end. I don't end with a bang. I'm like, oh yeah, I probably should shut up now. Thanks so much. Catch you at the next one. I'm gonna
Yeah.
stop recording, but don't leave. Okay, bye.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I do want to stop.